Number 1, Masters Coliseum, herO versus Reynor. Cool that we're actually going to get one of these really kind of high-profile matches in the tournaments, maybe without any tech issues, because I feel like a lot of the other high-profile matches in this tournament that I wanted to, maybe put on YouTube, for example, and stuff, were all bombarded in the first few days by tech issues, like Serral Maru and Maru Max packs just had so many issues about them, so yeah, it wasn't exactly ideal. As we have in the bottom right, to kickstart off this best of 3, it is our Red Zerg Reynor, 2-1 in this group. It's actually a very important match because of the results that they both have had before now. They're both 2-1. Reynor lost out, of course, to Creator in ZvP. herO lost out to Firefly in PvP, neither of which are really in the running to come out on the top of this group. Firefly's already eliminated from the group. Creator's currently 2-2. The winner of this obviously then goes to 3-1, which is prime position to maybe take first place still, pending their final results. But of course, the losers then 2-2, and maybe they are in a bit of trouble with some tough matches to go. Reynor still plays Clem, herO still plays a Laser. There's no guarantees in those matches. So a lot on the line here as we work our way through the final day of the group stages of the Masters Coliseum. It has been a fun week and a bit of these games. Tomorrow will be the first day of no Masters Coliseum in a good long while. Okay, coming up from herO, what are we expecting from him? A Stargate, triple Oracle into Blink, maybe some... I don't think he's going to do anything more aggressively. If anything, I think if he does anything offbeat, it might be more kind of like very macro, like super fast Stargates and Fleet Beacon and so on, and really rushing out the tech, for example. That is something I can imagine happening. That's the kind of thing I think might come to bear throughout the course of these games. As our feelings go through, there's going to chase a probe out from the natural expansion, and on they go out to the map. Single link turning and chasing that probe as well in the south for a few moments. As you have a queen coming through the hatch, the gas, all the good stuff still being brought into play in general in these early moments here. In the drones, we'll just continue then as the feelings go after a probing into the main base, getting a full scout about a Stargate going down. Will be seen pretty much straight away, so that Stargate is spotted. As we do have our few probes still coming through, and all of our bits and pieces continuing out for a few moments. The drones continue, the queens come in. Just going to be having the Adept and the Zelda around the left side, going to pick off a Zergling as well. It's nice to take that out. Nice and quickly, of course. Good to just take that down while we can. Once again, the feelings make their way out around the bottom. So they're going to work out down to the south as we do have ourselves the Stargate coming up. The couple probes are still coming through. Another gateway coming out, and Adept in production. As our lings get to the front, they're just going to kind of nibble and not really find much of anything. So a little bit of a brick wall that they end up running into there. Another ling around the top, going to go and nibble after a probe, and the two Adepts are going to come around the right side, where they will try and find something for themselves as well. They move up the ramp, but not going to find much success there immediately. Still just seeing that ling speed, still just seeing an Oracle being brought into play for the moment. Drone's gonna get surrounded by gonna get surrounded on those Adepts, so a little bit being dealt. 3 drones going down. Again, link speed coming up. The 3 drones are all on the way out. All that coming out for the moment is we just have ourselves the hatchery coming through from Reynor. This Oracle gonna dive into the main, is gonna get a drone or 2. Yeah, this is definitely adding up not quite in our Zerg's favor, so Reynor having a little bit of early game troubles. Just taking a lot of work and damage, definitely falling behind a little bit based on these early trades. And our... it's kind of funny, game is like world champion level, but obviously it's not quite a world championship. But our recent big tournament winner is definitely struggling in the early minutes here. A player who is so well known to his resilience to kind of early game damage, to his ability to just have such clean openers that you just don't stand a chance against him in the mid game, because that's where Zerg can really shine. When they're just left to their own devices, well, you're not leaving him to his own devices most of the time. You just can't deal any damage to stop him using his devices, right? You know, so always kind of funky there, as we do have our Twilight, our Forge, and our Robo all continuing out. The Nexus is about to finish. The first 3 probes are coming out. And again, more drones are building on the side of Reynor as well. So getting plenty of those underway. Queen also popping through. As the Oracles, yeah, just gonna go figure what they want to do. They're not quite sure, apparently. Not gonna dive past that natural, it seems. Three drones go down. Another couple oracles make their way in. Just gonna see that melee upgrade already starting through. Blinking +1 on the way from herO. The oracle's still taking a little bit of damage. And that Robo Bay just ticking through. It's going to be about halfway along, +1 in the blink from herO, both on the way. The Observer coming out as well. We do have a few extra gates, the Robo facility, all being added on from herO. So some extra bits and bobs being produced as our crew spread pushing up that right-hand side. Queen's still coming out as well. And the melee upgrade also coming through on the evolution chambers. Again, all of this up and operational. We do have a Overlord spotting it all as well, so Reynor is aware of what this game is moving in towards from hero's side. He sees the tech choices, he sees what herO wants to build. That should let Reynor make some good decisions for himself. Against Colossi, I mean, usually the best response to Colossi is just again towards some nice fast Vipers, so you can abduct those forward and really take them out of the equation from the Protoss army. Getting to fast Vipers obviously has its costs, an infestation pit, and the Hive is not exactly cheap. And you also want to make sure you have other tech to keep yourself alive until the Vipers come out. No point having Vipers if you're abducting into all of your dead units' corpses and losing the game. Balin Esther is going to be coming through from Reynor. Just going to be seeing our roach speed still producing up. Again, plenty of Colossi. Be able to build 2 at a time because he's got the double Robo. One of them still just taking a moment to build up an Immortal, but I imagine at some point we're going to start cranking out double Colossi, and then those numbers are going to rise up very quickly. I wonder if that perhaps opens any timing windows for herO, or if that's something he's going to think to try and utilize or not. Okay, let's go for a little bit of a trade out, finding the Stalker, taking some losses. Trying to slow down some of these Protoss numbers as the 4th base gets going from herO, so he drops that straight down. And our Stalker's still just poking at the front, going to find a creep tumor, maybe a second. Just in general, trying to find any way they can slow Reynor down throughout the early stages. Howling is now coming through, and again, the Stalker's taking a few more shots. Moving forward, there's actually going to be the Ling Roach turning back onto this army. The Colossi are going to start firing up. The Ling's going to begin to take some damage. And Lings, Roaches, Reynor all being chased away, so a couple moments of a bit of fear, honestly. And of our Zerg, this Protoss army is scary, and of course Reynor has creep spread to work with, so he doesn't necessarily want to fight without all of his advantages, and of course creep spread has a pretty major advantage when it comes down to it, so definitely understanding that he wants to maybe back it up a little bit. He's got Baneling's Morphin as well, something else that he's going to benefit with if he gets the time to make them. What's he going to do with them? It's awkward, this position on Grezvan, because there's not an easy flank. You've got to go so far around to flank in. And herO is making use of that time. Stasis Ward on the back of the army as well, so you can actually trap this army flanking in much more easily. That Ling Bane needs to be careful. If it gets caught, it could be really bad. All of the Lings get caught. The Banelings will at least move forward, but they're going to be currently running headfirst into Colossus Immortal. I mean, they're going to go off, but they really didn't find that much value. The Stalker's standing strong against the Roach Ravager. Again, some Lings right now really would be a little bit of a lifesaver, because just something to kind of tank against those Stalkers, although I guess they doesn't melt to the Colossi anyway. The Lings are going to pop out of stasis. herO's going to clean those up before they get a chance to run away as well, and herO has looked deadly from the very get-go here in game number 1. His harassment was really good. He consistently put some good pressure on. He put his opponent in a difficult place, and he hits the timing beautifully to wrap up the first point of the series. Now our red Zerg player is going to be Reynor, as he is going to be down 1 map, representing Basilisk, of course. In the bottom right corner of the map, our blue Protoss player from Dragon Kaiser Gaming is herO. So interesting to see kind of where the top Zergs kind of tumble a little bit, right? serO, clearly, still issues in his ZvZ. Reynor almost always feels as though ZvP is a matchup where he genuinely... I don't know if I want to say he struggles, but there's times when his ZvP just, like, he just doesn't get into good positions, right? There's, like, definite time periods where that happens. So next will go down on the natural expansions. Just going to get that into place. Hatch Castle Pool coming up. A gateway will go down. Our Cyber Core will begin to produce. And the Overlord just making its way toward the natural. The kind of thing that players just wouldn't necessarily risk. But obviously, I mean, there's the very tiny possibility someone might try it. Try and get a little bit of info. But, yeah, I mean, like I say, it's very much against the rules. When does the Korean Royale start? We have a qualifier on Saturday, and then we have the main tournament starting, I believe it's it was going to be September 12th, I think. Turns out that's a GSL qualifier, so it'll be September 13th is probably day number 1. I have to move 1 or 2 of the days around because of the GSL quali. These patches are with 10-range Colossi? Nope. They fixed Colossi a while ago. Fixed Colossi a little while ago. There's a kickoff. Nexus gonna get a little bit of a corner boost to start things off here, to get things underway, and otherwise we're just heading into a pretty cozy opening. Link speed coming through, the Stargate's coming out. And just seeing our Overlord just chilling out over on the sides. Void Ray already producing as our Warp Gate continues through with a couple links coming in. The link speed is producing up, and Adept on the way out as well. In these early stages. The Void Ray is always a little bit different in the PvZ. I'm gonna stop saying it's like, oh, that's weird or that's fun, because we do see this more frequently again. This is becoming less of a like, ooh, and more of like, okay, it's one of the options to build a Void Ray first. You do typically then use it to just push back a couple of Overlords and just to clear the pathing on that. Obviously goes a long way for you. As our Nexus comes in, the Oracle is going to start. And our Void Ray will activate, pushing the Overlord down to the bottom side. So the Overlord taking quite a bit of damage, taking some shots. Just going to see this Void Ray going to move over here as well. And just getting set up a little bit as our Queen's going to come around. Obviously the Void Ray again gets rid of those Overlords. It denies vision of Reynor, and then it just means if you want to be a bit sneaky and tricky as herO on the follow-up, it's so tough for Reynor to figure out that is coming. You've got to do so well scouting with lings and just getting a general feel off of so little to be able to make the correct choices in those scenarios. It's always a little bit rough. We'll just see our Stargate fleet beacon coming through for a couple moments. And there is something, like I say, a little bit different from herO. I kind of said, didn't I think in the last game, if I'm not mistaken, that if he does do something a bit different, I wonder if it might be a little bit more kind of like a macro-y kind of difference in terms of something like exactly like this. Going up in towards the fleet beacon super quickly, playing more towards the Stargates. I kind of thought about on, obviously, last map Gresvan, but now this map on Neo Humanity. Was last map Gresvan? It wasn't, it was Dragon Scales, wasn't it? What the hell was map number 1? It wasn't, why am I thinking of Gresvan? Probably because it was Gresvan, right? It was Gresvan, yes. Sorry, I'm completely imagining. For some reason, I started imagining the map wrong. Of course it was Gresvan, because freaking herO walked through that avenue of death for the Zerg in the middle where it couldn't be flanked. Sorry, guys, getting myself confused. Obviously, Gresvan a very macro map, but Neo Humanity kind of plays in a similar way in that regard. So actually, with these carriers popping, you know, maybe there is a chance to see something akin to that. Generally, when this build comes about, you build 2 to 4 carriers, you use those to harass a little, and then behind it, you just start to build up the ground force to support this carrier army. And then when it comes to later games, switching into air, you're already part of your way through to the transition. So it makes it for a much easier transition later on. As those 2 carriers come through, even getting air weapon upgrades early as well, so that's going to be pretty potent in terms of helping out. Definitely expecting that to be of a good aid here. Let's just have our first carriers popping out. Immediate Spire from Reynor, so maybe he's got a bit of a feel of what exactly is happening actually. So Spire going down, obviously the ability to build Corrupt is going to be important. He does see the carriers just then with the Lings as well, so now he's definitely somewhat aware of the fact that this is coming. Interceptors fly through. The first couple of Lings going to take a couple of hits off that. And Ling Roach in general just regathering in the middle of the map. As you see, our carrier is going to launch those interceptors out towards this set of rocks in the center, looking to knock this down and shut down the pathway through the middle. Rocks get knocked down. Again, just going to be seeing our carriers getting rid of a little bit more as our Baneling Nest coming through. Now our melee upgrade continues up as well. All of this coming through for the moment as our Prism, well, herO goes back around the left-hand side. So he is going to try and get a little bit of pressure up as the, I believe, Twilight just finished up, right? I would not be surprised to see a pretty quick Templar Archives on the back of that Twilight Council and just start heading in towards Storm. That's often, you know, a really great addition when you've got carriers in play already, so that would be my expectation there. Reynor is, as expected as well, going to build those Corruptors, because what else are you going to build when you're up against a whole bunch of carriers? Mutas would be a little bit of a death sentence and just so reliant on finding damage and finding holes in the defenses of his opponent. It's definitely not the reliable way to play in the slightest, so not upset with the fact that we stay away from that idea. As the Corruptors do come about, getting a grab over in the corner, and now moving forwards themselves. Again, +2 our weapons is on the way up. +2 is such a big point usually in PvZ, so the fact that herO is already part of the way there is great. High Templar warping in, I imagine initially we're actually going to make those Archons and use those for some splash damage at first without the need to get towards Storm. Don't seem to have time for that, especially as Reynor is coming right now. 77 drones, Corruptors out, ground army building. Looks as Reynor is set in stone what he wants to do, which is to get forward, get aggressive, and to go and try and fight off this army of herO before he gets any heavy attacked than the, well, what is actually now already 5 carriers. But it is pretty much only 5 carriers, so if the Corruptors get rid of the carriers, then everything else in the ground should be able to overwhelm, so there's definitely a lot of potential. As our army of Reynor comes swinging in, carriers are going to launch themselves, the Interceptors starting to go through, the Banes crashing forward. It's really important that these carriers survive. Super Battery is going to keep the first carrier alive. Very nicely done. The Interceptors are able to put in work then for the moment, so far so good. Again, the more that those Interceptors do, the better off you're going to be. The Archon's doing well on the ground as well, being kept alive for a very long time. 2 carriers have now fallen. The third is very low. There's only a handful of Corruptors left. The Queen's helping as well. Apparently, for the moment, it's enough to kind of scare herO back, but now herO's going to re-engage forward. He's not afraid. Takes out the Ravager, targets a few Lings. And we have a game of chaos in this game number 2. I think herO will lose this forward base. He'll get a few more units for it. 7 new Corruptors built from Reynor as herO is already building up Void Rays. He actually already had 2 replacement carriers, so he goes back up to 4. And when he gets back to 4, he's going to find himself with, again, the Void Rays popping, so he'll have a better defense against the Corruptors. He did pretty well against the Corruptors last time. Just didn't quite stop from finishing a few of the carriers in the end. With a few Void Rays, it might be quite different here this time around, though. Things, Roach's Queens coming through, just going to go knocking out a set of rocks. Some rocks will take some hits. The Fusel's going to run around the right-hand side. It's going to be seeing a couple of interceptors flying out. And again, the Queen's done some damage, and an interceptor is going to go down. It's going to be seeing our pylon taking some damage as well, as our carriers going to hang out overhead. So, carriers just chilling out over here. Things come in, getting a little bit of a surround. Again, Queens, Corruptors are going to go after some of those interceptors as well, doing their best just to keep this push going. Reynor maxed as he sits on the front doorstep of herO. We're just trying to find the right fight. He's got plenty of batteries around this location. He just needs that Nexus to finish, so he has access to the super battery as well. But obviously go a long way. That Immortal has just tanked so many Banelings. The super battery does now fall, but I tell you what, it actually put in some work keeping that Immortal alive against the Banes at first. Corruptors are going for the carriers as the Void Rays are honestly getting a lot of the Corruptors at the same time. The Archons are still tanking on the ground. The army supplies are going to get close. Banelings are looking for some more stack defense. He just found not just the batteries, but he also found himself the couple of warping-in units, which is a real shame because that was also the nearby warp-in pylon. So now the warp-in is going to be slow there. And a few Zealots right now would actually just clean up, I think. A couple of Zealots about to finish warping in, probably warping the next ones elsewhere. The Interceptor's still trying to go for these Queens. Reynor's supply is low, but the fact 2 carriers are still alive is huge. Because Reynor is not really rich enough to rebuild another round of Corruptors. I don't know if he wants to, even if he can. 2 carriers still alive, and obviously the ability to go into a couple more. That's exactly what herO starts to play. I think he's just found himself an impeccable hold. Just about stays ahead on the army supply now as well, does Reynor, but that does not look good for him compared to before. As we do have all of our Ravagers coming through, the Corruptors and the Roaches building up. More carriers coming out of these Stargates. herO is going to hold. What a hold it was as well. The only complaint I have is that one pylon that got busted by those Banes. If he didn't lose the Zealots that were warping in there, he would have actually had a very quick push going on, I think. Let's see, our Ravagers still pressing forward. Just going to be seeing a couple of cancels here. herO cannot get to 4th base. That's one thing Reynor does have going for him, is that he's denied that 4th base a couple times over at this stage. So that's definitely an aid. As herO will actually start taking the 4th on the right-hand side, but then he doesn't have to actually defend the forward position as much. So this is going to start looking like a bit of a different game because he's just going to back off to play elsewhere. After this massive Roach Ravager, we are actually going to see a round of Corruptors from herO. I tell you what, Reynor almost like paused for a moment after that previous fight and like didn't really kind of do much, and then now he's just kind of exploded with units. I wonder if he's kind of picking what to do at first. And now that he's decided his supply, like I said, it really does kind of boom onwards, growing massively. Couple Knight Templars, couple of Zealots all coming through, the carriers and the Void Ray still up overhead. Just chilling out and just going to be seeing the Banes on the way through as well, so just bringing all of this in. Corruptors, +1 missiles all being produced, and again this army of Reynor still chilling out in the center. It's going to come through, knock down a battery at first as well, and you have a couple pylons that are going to, a couple of biles that are going to take out a pylon. Now Reynor continues southward, and he's going to find himself the Cybernetics Core. +2 air weapons denied. I actually thought +2 air weapons was on the way up earlier, but I must have been mistaken. Oh, it got cancelled up as herO put everything into his defense. Again, there's a lot of carriers. Oh, he loses one to the Biles. That's a real shame. The Corruptors were yet to show themselves. They didn't want to come forward, I believe, before. Well, the Archons got cleaned up a little bit. He's trying to avoid that splash damage. And the Interceptors are shredding the ground army, though. And now the Corruptors are not exactly having a great time either. The Void Ray's putting in some work there initially. Now the Corruptors are starting to get through the carriers. However, the Zealots across the map that Reynor is not dealing with The carriers really did just too much to the Ravagers and Queens before the Corruptors were able to get involved. And again, Reynor is going to go reeling backwards. This time, though, he doesn't deny a 4th base of herO. So herO's going to be feeling way better for himself coming out of this fight than he has in the previous engagements, because he actually has a stable economy and he's dealt economic damage himself. That combination should make this feel way better for herO than it has done in previous engagements, and that means that he should feel way better for the next one. You know, now you're really set up beautifully to kind of keep on going on in all of this, as we do have the units in the center of herO hanging around a little bit. Archons joining up, all those Void Rays joining together. It's going to get a couple more Group Tumors going down, and we do have ourselves the missile upgrade coming through. A few Ravagers coming up as well. Storm coming in, a couple of carriers still building again, just getting ourselves set up for the moment. And now Storm. Well, I thought we might try and get the Storm earlier, but of course it didn't really make sense with how Reynor was playing, and just going for the Archons instead was awesome. Now herO believes he can get to Storm, and if he can get to Storm, it's obviously a huge upgrade. It's going to soften up everything. It's going to make your life so much easier. So herO's going to love that. Reynor going to find the opening into the natural and main, so herO never really fixing that. Well, never mind, we might not have Storm, as these Lings are going to find that building Temple Archive, so that's going to be denied, I believe, in the next couple of moments as that run-by continues in the main base. This fight breaking out at the front a little bit. There is the kill and the cancel on this Temple Archive, so Storm will not happen. Reynor buys himself time here, where he doesn't have to worry about that big upgrade. That would have been a massive advantage towards herO's army. herO has to rebuild the Temple Archives. Meanwhile, Reynor is teching up himself. Now he's got Infestors on the way out. Now he's got himself a Hive over halfway done as well. There's a couple of Lings still nibbling through at the Forge. A couple of Biles onto the ramp. Well, it's finally clearing up all those Lings that were over in the main base and everything. And now we have ourselves the army gathering of herO just out the front. Which Ravager coming through. Our next is going to get cancelled. You know, the Archon has to back it up just for a couple moments. Still seeing that Hive finishing up in a moment here as our Zerglings going to continue to come on in. So let's charge up. Crows of Biles are going to try and land onto the Void Rays of carriers. Man, this army is absolutely crazy. As you are going to be seeing, the Void Ray is going to activate on the left-hand side. He is going to get hit by a fungal, but the Void Rays are still activated. My goodness, the Crows of Biles are pretty darn good. The only issue I have here is that these Archons are obviously fighting the Corruptors without, well, are not fighting the Corruptors, the Archons. And the Fungal Bile combos are so good for Reynor. That is how you take a fight, Reynor. Might have just turned this around, guys. He's going to completely wipe the air army. He's not done that previously. There's always been units left over. The ground force wasn't enough, and this was not the fight herO was looking for. Reynor is going to swarm herO's attempt to move forward. Wow, what a fight. What an engagement from our Zerg. And that is what makes Reynor so great. Looking for any way to win, and sometimes just making magic out of the absolute bare minimum. Now herO shouldn't be able to hold any longer as Reynor comes slamming into this base, and it's 1-1 tied up when we thought it was going to be all about herO and a 2-0. Nope, Reynor is going to take us to a third game of game number 3. We do have in the top right-hand side, he brought it back into this game 3 for us. It's Reynor, big map altitude as well. Kind of expect herO might play into carriers again on this map, or maybe not carriers into everything else, but maybe like some Blink Stalkers into like fast carriers this time around. Might be the switch up that he looks for. I think that's the kind of style that could be very, very good on the side of herO, and something that he's definitely done a fair amount on this map. Early StarCraft tournaments with maxing roaches. Yeah, I mean, the level of play is just so different. Like especially the base level of like mechanics and, you know, the amount of run-bys and drops and everything, and the control. that each of those see on a regular basis in this day and age of SE2 is, in my eyes, really very high. The micro in fights was inexistent in that game. They just A-click. Okay, cool. I see. I'm not going to try and pretend that there was the most micro-intensive games we've ever seen. But I can promise you right now that if you were in that game and you A-clicked, it would look extremely different to their apparent A-clicks. So, maybe just... Yeah, okay. I'm going to stop reading Twitch chat, because we're just being silly, apparently. Patch Gas and Pool coming up. Nexus and Cybercore is being produced, and our probe is already coming up here on the side. From herO wondering where we're going to go. He did not go for the block on a hatch or anything, not even a scout, so he's not going to see what's going on in the early stages. I see Queens and a few drones all coming up. The Overlord is coming out. Let's just have our Nexus and our Simulator all continuing through. So coming through a little bit of this. The drone's going to go back and forth on their minerals, on that gas. Get themselves the early game mining all set up. So we're just going to have that Overlord pushed over to the side. Just going to have that get up to the high ground. Many things are better now, but not the multitasking. You think drops on several fights gone and will stand in that era too? Yeah, of course, but I will stand by saying that if you go back and look at kind of like games from 5 or 6 years ago, the level of control in fights in multiple places at the same time is absolutely not the same. Like, yes, there might have been multi-pronged drops and 3 hits in the same time, but a lot of that stuff nowadays feels like a lot more regular than back then. It was something truly special. It might not even be like better now, but it's definitely become something that people have done or people do on a more regular, frequent basis, right? Which, if they're doing it more regularly, kind of takes away from, generally means that the game has evolved and kind of gotten to a stronger and better point. Gonna have ourselves the link speed coming up. The Oracle is on the way as we get started here. Then we've seen a couple of Queens gonna go after the Adept, a couple of Lings going forward as well. And Nexus gets going. He's gonna be having our Phoenix going after the Overlord. Watching early Wings pro games now. I'm not even talking about Wings though. Like, obviously Wings of Liberty is very different. I think it's fair to say that Wings of Liberty is a completely different situation. Like, there's no, I don't think that's even a question. I think even if you look at early Legacy of the Void and right now, like, that's an 8-year gap, so it's still a pretty serious gap. I don't know. I still feel like there's a pretty substantial difference, but maybe we should just do a watch party sometime. We watched some games from a few years ago. Link speed coming up, back feelings on the way in, Evolution Chamber coming up as well. So we have our 2 Oracles. And the Phoenix, so again, different kind of Stargate opening every time here. Even if this one is not too different, we're going to have the Phoenix coming through. We'll just have a top more Stargates coming out. I said maybe like blink into more carriers. Well, this is just straight up, Stargate. Are we just going to go Mass Phoenix first, or are we just going to go straight into a Fleet Beacon? No Fleet Beacon right now, which is why I'm saying maybe we go Mass Phoenix first, and then we do something different from there. Reynor has the melee upgrade. Melee is actually pretty good in these scenarios, I feel like, because if you're playing melee right now, you're putting yourself in a position where... Yeah, you're putting yourself in a position where with that melee upgrade, you're going to be able to really do a lot against someone that doesn't have a lot of stuff against Zerglings. So I like the fact that we've got a melee upgrade coming out. That feels pretty good on the Zerg side with what he's playing against. Definitely a good chance to, repeatedly deny a third or so if there's not going to be much to protect it, apart from, again, perhaps Oracles. If this continues to be, super melee heavy and a lot of Ling Bane, we might even go into, a few extra Oracles as well, just to help out on the ground. See what Reynor builds off of the lair when that finishes up in the next few moments. Things wrap around. Adept's taking some shots. There's the Spire coming through, so Reynor not wasting any time at all on that one as our Oracle's coming back around. All of our Phoenix coming up for the moment. Our Stargate's coming through. The +1 air weapon's coming up. It's going to be soon a few Queens gathering together and just having ourselves the Revelation going down. Getting this underway for the moment still. He's going to go around, knock those rocks down, which obviously block the watchtower off, and then if you want to, you can kill off that gold base and maybe kill off the rocks and take the gold base for yourself, which obviously is a possibility, especially when your opponent is maybe not building anything that can push onto the map as easily. Trying to rush out this gold can be a pretty good response to that as our Phoenix going to lift up these queens. 1, 2. Gonna get a couple more, so I'd say these Phoenix are doing pretty well for themselves. Of course, we're moments away from the Spire, and they should be more or less straight into some Corruptors here. As our Queens move up into the third base, gonna go and find one more Queen. Not even a transfusion drop from Reynor, who is gonna try and camp out next to his Spore Crawler. 6 new spores on the way up. Uh-oh, the Overlords are a little bit in the open. He's very close to being supply blocked as well. Reynor coming across the map with Banes, Morphin, and Roaches moving. He has to force these Phoenix to turn around, but he is going to lose so many Overlords. 4 in production isn't even going to free him of the supply block at the moment. 132 out of 72, and these Phoenix on the way back home. Well, first Force Field going to buy you a little bit of time. No Ravages here, and then the Banelings again shot at by the Oracles. So the Banes are not going to succeed. That's going to be a failure. And now the Phoenix can just pick off all of these Roaches. They will not make it home, and Reynor having a disaster against these Phoenix. The Spire finished up, but not in time to help out with everything that's happened so far. We're not even building anything now. I mean, what do you build? I mean, obviously you were supply blocked for a bit, so you didn't really even have much of a choice. Another Overlord going to get picked off as the Phoenix come through there. We are going to have our Queen still getting chipped away at. There's going to be one picked off straight away as our Phoenix continue back to the center of the map. Our Lings continue to move around a little bit. And that Phoenix range now too. He is going to get Templar Archives already on his way to +2 air weapons. He's obviously fantastically set up for this game in general, as those Overlords should not last very long if he wants to go after a couple extra. Of course, he never knows how close Reynor is to a supply block, but if you saw what we saw, that Reynor is still just hanging on the edge of supply blocks, then I think you would very happily go and make a move for it again. The Phoenix is going to come back down the left side. Logon's coming out, up cannons and batteries coming through. Phoenix all back to the middle as we do have Ravages right for the picking, just morphing in. They have a little bit too much armor when morphing though, so we're just going to give them a second and let them finish up, and then maybe we'll try and grab them again on the way to the greatest fire. As we do get a fungal onto these Phoenix. We're going to follow up with a second, one more, but then we're out of Infestor energy. We lose a few of the Phoenix, but not too many. That could have been much worse. Kind of interested as herO does see the greatest fire. I guess he'll probably build Tempest now. It's kind of interesting that he was just heading into the Robo Bay and not going into any carriers or anything, so now I really expect him to kind of say, okay, cool. I'm just going to move myself in towards all of this, you know, kind of, supporting tech, but I don't know. I still kind of feel you see the Grey Spire. Maybe you saw building Tempest right now, using the Phoenix to help him push on the ground. So it's getting busy. Archons need to be careful of those corrosive bars. We do split away from those right there. Nice little bit of micro. That is non-existent apparently. As our Archons have to pull back though, these Lings are going to be a bit too much, and I think Reynor is actually just holding on. I'm not going to lie, I can't say I'm super blown away with the follow-up here from herO. Like, it felt like he started off so well. And now? And now what have we got? Like, now we're just sat on this army that's kind of trying to push into like a crap ton of ground army of the Zerg. I'm not currently convinced, although we do have a lot of reinforcements coming in. herO actually going to meet a supply block right now, as I guess he's going to free up a bit of supply. These Zealots will not last long against that Roach Ravager that's already poking about. Hopefully more Archons into the center. herO having those Disruptors brought into play as well, so continue to get himself set up here. Disruptors are continuing through, +2 attack is building off the Forge. Improving this army in any way that he can. Queen's coming around the top side. Again, a few more Corruptors coming out. The +1 missiles, the Baneling speed. Things from Reynor that will obviously help him. The Phoenix is still trying to poke and prod, but I mean, they're really kind of beyond the point at which we first expected them to perhaps be incredibly useful. And to be fair, hero's supply has risen up a little bit. Maybe this ground army starts to look a little bit better now. I just can't believe he's all the way on +2 air weapons and he's just not feeling as though some kind of carrier or even Tempest switch against, again, a Great Aspire. Like to me, that just makes sense, but herO ain't feeling it as our Spore Crawler gets a couple shots off. We are going to commit in. The Disruptors will help a lot here against the Roach Ravager ground army. A couple of Fungal Growths helping against those initial Zealots. Tell you what, the Disruptors have been pretty big. Okay, herO, he's pushing through. The Phoenix right now going to be able to deal with the Broodlords a little bit. There's not many Broods either. So, it's another good Fungal, but there's nothing happening with these Fungals, right? They're not killing anything, and they're not really doing much more than making this take 2 seconds longer to move up the ramp. Disruptor shots coming in, and yeah, Reynor does not have enough to fight this. herO is going to clean up. He did do enough in the end. There was just a couple of fights where I kind of felt like he wasn't really gaining any traction, and that maybe he was kind of getting reset and losing the edge that he created. Maybe I should have trusted in the